right now what's happening is there's a Native American pageant that's honoring the missing and murdered women. So the Miss Indiana World Pageant is part of one of the largest gatherings of Native American people in the United States. Organizers of the annual Gathering of Nations powwow in New Mexico say they hope to bring awareness. So federal studies have shown Native American women are killed more than 10 times the national average. Around 3,000 singers and dancers and 800 artisans are expected to attend the powwow, which began on Friday. So it happened yesterday, but it's still going on through this weekend and probably into the next week as well. The pageant will feature 18 contestants from tribes in the United States and in Canada. So this event has been held every year since 1984. The contest is meant to celebrate Native American culture and provide a platform for Indigenous women to showcase their tribes and their culture, which is fantastic. So right now what they're trying to do is bring awareness and hopefully to end this dangerous crisis that's happening. So I have some very disturbing statistics to read to you, and I had no idea this was happening, but I think it's time that we bring more awareness to this. I know that it's been getting very little coverage, so this is from the BBC, so I'm surprised that they're covering it too. I mean, this is something that's happening in the United States.
Where else can you get U.S. news covered?
I know.
Foreign news.
Yeah, so here's the thing, and again, shout out to the BBC for actually doing something, talking about a story that Americans should be talking about. So here's the disturbing information. According to a report from the Urban Health Institute, a division of the Seattle Indian Health Board, there were 5,712 cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in 2016 alone. But only 116 of these cases were logged in the Department of Justice Federal Missing Persons database. And due to the scarcity of resources in the area, researchers say this number is likely an undercount. And you got to think about their families and their friends. They're American citizens, and we don't know where they're at or what happened or who's responsible for their kidnapping or death. So here's something very, very important. Democratic Representative Deb Haaland, the first Native American woman ever to be elected to the United States Congress, welcomed the powwow to her native New Mexico, calling the event one of the world's most recognized celebrations of Indigenous culture. And this is a quote from her: "I'm incredibly grateful for Miss Indian World for making this a priority and to the Gathering of Nations for their leadership." So we got to definitely make sure this story gets more attention, because what happened to all these women and girls? Who's responsible for this? Where are they at? And how come the federal government isn't investigating more resources into this? Because if Native American women are killed 10 times more than on the national average, awareness needs to be brought to this, and it has to be stopped. And there has to be more media coverage of this terrifying story. So, Daniel, Paul, please put in your comments.
So it's very sad. I didn't realize the numbers were like that either.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a similar thing happening with African American girls that have gone missing. But I guess because of the numbers, because, Native Americans were genocided out of existence for the most part, there's fewer. So that high of a number is really, really tragic. The fact that so few are even being counted is tragic. But I think I want to even take this specific story and spread it to other minority groups as well, because this is not unique. When a white girl goes missing in the 90s, every single milk carton would have her face on it. Every Amber Alert would be going off right away to deal with her. Police would be there. There'd be resources looking. But if it's a Native American girl, well, we have other stuff to do. We can't really put out the resources for it. It's just too much. Is she really missing? She probably just hated you and ran away. I just can't really even think that this is allowed to happen. And seeing the United States and its past actions with Native American nations and the genocide that took place on them is just one more horrific wound to the Native American nations and the people there. And I'm hoping that this pageantry gets them more attention. More people are aware about this. There should be more media outlets talking about it. I, for one, didn't know it was this bad. I didn't know the numbers were this bad. Yeah. Paul, you want to add anything to this?
I think Daniel hit the nail on the head. Really, the federal government of the United States has never in its entire existence been friendly to Native Americans. Mm-hmm. There have been moments where we try to put some window dressing on things and try to feign support for minority groups of all kinds, but specifically Native Americans. It's always been smoke and mirrors. We're not going to come to the defense of this people group. We never will, we should.
Yeah,
but
there's something else too. Kara Moss, I just want to mention your comment. The missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada have been an issue for ages. It's probably been the same thing here in the United States too. Previous Prime Minister Harper refused to put them in a special category as compared to white women for ages. So
I want to add that there's points in U.S. history where you could just literally buy a Native American child for like $20 or whatever the equivalent of that would be in inflation, and we really haven't cared. It's continuous. What I would say that this is a capitalist thing. This is a capitalist mindset, because from our point of view, from a capitalist point of view, I should say, what GDP do Native Americans produce? They live off the land. They live sustainably. They don't exploit the resources in their area. So what value are they doing? They're just wasting land. That's basically been the talking point since forever, and it isn't a talking point anymore, but it still is almost the official talking point. So like in the Black Hills, it's like, yeah, you can have this land. Here's the land. Treaty defines this land. But if we find stuff on it, fuck the treaty. We're not going to listen to it. Go fuck yourself out of here. And if you try and stop us, Standing Rock is a very recent example of this happening, that they're like, we were going to put this pipeline through Bismarck, but Bismarck doesn't want it, and those are, people with money and power. Yeah. So we're just going to put it through this reservation of people that have no power and no weapons and don't fight back because...
But there's another issue too, because you know what, this impacts a lot of women too, because there's an interesting comment in here too. It's from Alexandria Lecaponte. I hope I said that name right. I apologize.
You probably did.
I messed up.
I don't have a better guess.
Yeah,
Lecomte.
Okay, I mean, in Chicago alone, the number of African American women who have gone missing is astounding.
People have been saying that there's a serial
killer that's been going on for decades.
And the police have been, again, to the same point that police have been whenever this happens, police are like, yeah, but, she probably ran away. It was probably her fault that this happened, so no one looks into it. And so America, it'd be quite something if it turns out there was a serial killer that has been around in Chicago for about 15 years, 2 decades, and no one found them because no one even cared to look through the data because they're just these poor black girls.
Yeah. This reminds me a little bit of a story we did last week where we were talking about unregulated militia groups on the border and, border police basically kind of turning a blind eye. Or
it turns out the FBI actually arrested them. Border police didn't. The FBI did. Yeah.
Right. So this sort of seems like the same thing. Like, well, if there's somebody out there that's killing all these minority people or disappearing these people, I don't think we should protect those people. It's sort of at least coincides with our interests anyway.
All humans are equal, but some humans are more equal than others.
Yeah, essentially that's what's going on.
And so basically here, let's end the story on a positive note though. Because this pageantry that's being held by the Native American nations are bringing awareness to this, but this is a growing crisis. It's something that needs more attention to, and people need to start talking about it more and actually bringing awareness, real social awareness.
Super quick. Isn't everyone ecstatic that CNN, MSN, and Fox have been talking nonstop about Russiagate? It's a much more important issue.
2.5 years. Mind you, 2.5 years talking about Russiagate. Again, all these other stories,
This is the point that we make to people. This is my bigger point on Russiagate. It's what they don't talk about because they're talking about Russiagate or stories like this. The BBC is covering what's happening in America because American news can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Just like the police. Can't be bothered.